Hello everyone, welcome to the second edition of Hyper Annotation. We are here in the Venice Biennale 59th edition. Now we are in the Lithuanian Pavilion with the Curator of Lithuanian Pavilion, Neringa Bumbliene. Neringa, can you tell us a little bit more about the pavilion this year and the work you're presenting?
Hello. So this year the Lithuanian Pavilion moved a little from the last year, the last Biennale, but we're still in Castello. This time we have two venues. One is like just in front of one another. The first one is more dedicated to experiments and production, while another is more for distribution and representation. And the idea behind the pavilion is that the artist Robertas Narkus conceived this, I call it the surrealist factory, that produces a secret product to boost our intuition, so we can take better decisions in our daily lives and in bigger scales. And this product, let's call it an elixir, is made from an invasive species of seaweed which is locally harvested here in Venice. It is called Undaria pinnatifida and is commonly known as wakame. So this species of seaweed grows very fast, is full of nutrients and vitamins, and kind of bears a promise to solve imminent problems of food problems of growing humankind. But at least here in Venice it's already contaminated.
Oh,
so so we invited renowned fermentation specialist David Zilberg to work with us on this project, and together with artists we created kind of this factory which ferments the pollution away and kind of creates this environment which certain kinds of bacteria grows, and it keeps our organisms and minds trust more our intuition and kind of be in a more sustainable relationship to each other and to our environment. Of course there is a certain level of irony, I guess
I think, although it's a little bit hard to distinguish between irony and seriousness, but that's actually the interesting part of it. But as I'm realizing, it's an ongoing project. It's not something that has been installed in the pavilion. It's procedural. How has been the installation? How was the experience of being here in this pavilion this year?
So it is. We started working on the project some 2 years ago, and the artist came to Venice having kind of rather clear idea of what he wanted to do in search of venues for the pavilion. But from the very beginning, it was clear that we want to be in a kind of in the city, meaning not in some kind of touristic areas, but really kind of close to the daily life of what is happening outside of Biennale and out of season. So it was kind of very performative in a way that lots of decisions were taken on the way, just meeting people, having the discussion, seeing what can you do, what there is at hand. So like lots of materials that you see in the pavilion are sourced locally. So I don't know how in English to say this, but whatever. So not only seaweed, but so many other things, and also just lots of things have been changed because of certain conversations, certain encounters. So it's a lot in the process even now after the opening, especially as one of the venues, the one we are standing in now, is bought and dedicated by our patrons, and who gave a possibility for us to use it for our projects. And we are likely staying for foreseeable future here also after the Biennale. So it's kind of not just only coming here, making kind of a national pavilion with all the excitements and so on, but also kind of being more closer to the earth, to the people, to kind of real processes, seeing what can be done, how can we work together, how can we, I don't know, live together, what is a better way, what are obstacles, what are success, what are failures. It's also like lots of contradictions also in conceptual, conceptually in the project, but it's not only, there are kind of many tensions, let's see. So there is this will to work with the local communities, to understand kind of local processes. So there is the seaweed, which traveled, actually, it's like an invasive species which traveled from Asia via these huge commercial ships to Venice. Actually, the same ships are making Venice sink.
Wow.
And then the seaweed stayed here, and of course it's a kind of invasive species, so it pushes local species away, but it also brings something good because it makes kind of clears the water and clears the air we breathe, and then we it's kind of and then there is also, it's still National Pavilion, and the artist is still kind of has his own ambitions, so there are many contradictions, and I think it's kind of, and the project embraces it, these contradictions openly, understanding that this life is not only white and black. There are so many different elements which contributes to whatever we call reality.
I can see how there are conversations on many layers. And also, to be honest, it's really nice to be away from the main venue of the Biennale, from like that abundance of the objects and arts and the cacophony. And like actually you feel more in the city and away from something that feels a little bit distant. And like the art is in conversation with the city and it's more site-specific. So how do you see generally this year's Biennale and your conversation with the Biennale and the topic and the other pavilions, being away from it somehow a little bit? How is the experience?
Yeah, so I didn't have a chance to see lots of things this year yet. Only, part of the Biennale. I was kind of happy and glad to read the concept of a Biennale conceived by Cecilia Alemani, and I think it's kind of very sensitive and clever and generous approach to our realities and surrealities. And I think our pavilion also shares certain concerns raised by the Biennale. Let's see this focus on surrealism. So there's kind of elements that do not belong to reality only, but also to surreality. I was also recently attending the opening of a new exhibition at Guggenheim, the Guggenheim collection.
Yeah, sure.
On surrealism and magic, and many works there are made during the Second World War, and now we are also facing, for Lithuania is kind of very painful, like for all of us, but for us is maybe especially because we're so close, we share the similar history with Ukraine, so for us was also kind of very heartbreaking moment to face this war and continue working on the project. So we kind of thought of what can be done, what can art do, and how can we I think it's important to do the best we can, but also and in this way to change the world into kind of some better direction as we see. And I think it overlaps somehow with the Biennale, of this kind of focus on surrealism. And one of the themes of the Biennale is human, but not only bodies and their connections to the earth. So we have kind of bacteria here and seaweed and different organisms. So for me it overlaps nicely. And I also, actually yesterday I had an hour or two to visit the curated exhibition on Arsenal, and I was actually I love the show. It's so rich and in visual aesthetically so beautiful. There are so many lesser known names, which has such a strong artworks, and kind of to me certain artworks also somehow overlaps with hybridity of our pavilion. So there are so many, materials and colors and shapes, and also this will to embrace wider cultures, our heritage. So yeah, and how we feel to be a little away. I don't know. We are coming from a small country, from northeast of Europe. I guess we're used to be a little away from the biggest centers. And but to me, I don't know, like especially in this moment, I think it's kind of, I feel comfortable and in my place to be in these kind of small venues in the city rather than some big palazzos or whatever, but that doesn't really, belong to us in this present moment. We went through COVID, now we are going through war, so I don't know, to me it feels a moment to kind of, to just like to be aware of what is happening, and to try to be sincere and open and see, what is that you have and what is possibly that you can do with what you have.
That was amazing, and I just want to maybe for the last question, to some extent you explained it, but now with all the situation that we're talking about and all the elements that are with political, artwork, pandemic and everything, and do you think there is going to be a change in the regions, the Eastern countries, more Eastern European countries, there is going to be a change in the art scene and how they situate themselves in the art scene more globally or in the Europe?
Yeah. So let's see, difficult to predict these kind of things. Definitely Ukraine now has lots of attention, and the Ukrainian artists, I think, were never as visible as we are now. So it's a contradictory moment for them, I guess, because such a tragedy is happening at their home, and then the world is opening their doors for their art and trying to take care of their careers and their lives, basically. So I think it's very important. Actually, I was involved in a big project in Ukraine some 10 years ago, and I met many people and worked with them throughout the country. And so I would say, in the present moment, you, as an artist, you will definitely be affected by what is happening. It's not possible to create some fragile, super conceptual pieces that are far away from realities. So I believe we will see many kind of artworks from Ukraine that are openly addressing the war. And I think it will affect somehow the region in general. Let's see at what extent, but yes. Well, I hope there will be more kind of interest and more awareness. Me too, I'm coming from Lithuania, and we are in European Union and in NATO since many years, but I still sometimes traveling have to answer questions that we are not Russia. Yes, we are in the European Union. No, we don't speak Russian. Yes, we were occupied. We were not, willingly going to be part of the Soviet Union. It was not our project. So I think it's good because now people will better understand and know what is happening, and in the region, and also I hope in the art world of the region as well.
Amazing! Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for coming here in this special weather.
Thank you.